Okay, next on our agenda is a discussion of RRDD, the Refuse Disposal District, sports field proposal. Alicia, I think I might have briefed you both on this in passing. Don Stein and I have been pursuing, really kind of started with Don, talking to Jimmy Hart, both being from Barkhamsted, about the possibility of constructing a sports field up at the dump. When we talk about the dump, I'm talking about the upper level in the bulky waste storage area off to the left, a large portion of which was pitched over the last 2 or 3 years as a mini industrial park, if you recall. Contractor shop and storage. Of course, the economy didn't help their proposal. Topography of the site didn't really help the proposal, but it seems like we're all going through some field space needs. You know, we have our issues here with football that we're pursuing over at Antolini. But we did meet and actually had Dave Batista come and meet with us and do a couple different proposals and layouts, and we met with Judy Palmer, Roger Newberry, and Dale Martin up there several times over the last couple months, seeing if we could somehow put our heads together and say, how can we work together to
Judy Palmer, who's she, regional?
Superintendent regional. Yeah. Of course, when you talk with, you know, the entities, you have to remember is that there are 3 towns that own the dump, or RRDD.
Okay.
Winston, New Hartford, and Barkhamsted. So anytime you start trying to modify that, you talk about creating a complex formula of, you know, well, how would that work with regional needing a football field when regional doesn't really own part of the dump? Okay? So it was always kind of an unusual discussion because nobody could really wrap their arms around it. But the intent of it is just to see, hey, how can we work together? Is there a chance that we can do this? And after going through several different, you know, possible scenarios, of which I could show you all, like, you know, emails of hand-drawn concepts. I mean, I think we met 3 or 4 times up there with Dave Batista, really doing pro bono. We came up with one singular plan for us to consider, and this is really in the realm of giving them some feedback if this is a direction that we're considering on, you know, going into. The background of this is that RRDD holds in excess of $300,000 in their capital budget for improvements. We are a 30% owner of that. They feel that, the board members feel that they've been holding on to that money too long. So it's either time to move on an issue or start refunding it back to the taxpayers, i.e. NewHartford, Barkhamsted. Don Stein has a baseball issue. He needs baseball fields. We have a football issue that we are pursuing. But that's not to say that we don't have other field space issues, because our fields are packed. So they came up with this, and I only made one copy, but we could share it. And in the interim, if you know, as you can see the circular drive, that is the bulky waste area here, where you drive up and you unload all your bulky waste storage, and then you drive back out. Now, a second driveway would be considered in this area, baseball field, soccer/football field. This concept alone would require a change in the bylaws and designation of RRDD. Nothing in their bylaws allow for any type of recreational activities, and as it stands now, the Superfund designation that exists over RRDD remains in effect until a minimum of 2016. My initial thought process to them is that, in the first thought, we are, how should I say, extremely fortunate to have extremely beautiful parks. it's almost inspiring to go there to watch a ball game, or to hike, or to go to Jones Mountain. This initial proposal here, I believe that the initial thing is a perception issue of safety with soil contamination, with Superfund designation, combined with aesthetics. It is extremely unattractive. And it's been labeled the dump. I could see that other sport, even if we could work out
I would be, you know, if they closed the dump.
well, they
No, I understand.
don't really have any
I
place else to
understand.
put the bulky storage, and if you try to relocate it, that adds the price. The initial, and they are doing a formalized cost estimate for us as we speak. Dave Batiste is gonna write this up. But the estimates on this are high six figures. So it's not, there's no element of constructing these fields that would remain within the $325,000 to $350,000 that they hold. So the question is, and there's no real solid basis to think that they would get an exemption to modify their bylaws to allow this to happen. They have no potable water there. They're working on a plan. But the question really revolves around us considering whether we want to pursue this, if now is the time, or whether we want to request them to refund our portion of the funds so that we can pursue other options. And I know that there are many places around the nation that use filled capped landfills for sports facilities, but I don't know that there are ones that carry active Superfund designations on them. So,
What's Winston's position?
well, Winston is the largest owner in terms of they own about 50%. I think their fund is, and they are really not driving the discussion in terms of wanting this development. So they have sports fields. Mark Hampstead's driving it, and I think we're willing to listen. So regional is somewhat interested, but the question remains is,
Would regional have funds?
well,
Is
yeah,
that, you know, is that a proper question to ask?
that is the question to ask. How does Winston benefit from allowing regional to use their facility?
Oh,
See,
just
it's just-
Heartland.
Well, how does
Over-
Norfolk?
yeah, yeah.
Norfolk's not an owner, and neither is
Yeah, no,
Coke.
that's what I'm
It gets extremely confusing without them buying into ownership of some specialized agreement or selling it to a separate entity that would be wholly owned by a joint holding company. You know, now knowing that's an existing Superfund site, who's going to want to sign ownership? You know, I can't imagine our town attorney would be asking us to sign on the dotted line to take ownership of a contaminated property. Willingly. So, I brought this to you now. I want you guys to think about this because they're going to be asking us for a formalized recommendation. I think we're going to need the cost estimates. I know from what Dave Batista has already said to us that you're talking about, you know, a 6, 7, possibly, you know, a $900 to $1 million proposal if the bulky waste storage has to be moved. Which I told him, I said, I don't know that we could get popular support for something that is aesthetically, you know, unpleasing. Is that-
Why wouldn't they, don't they have a lot of land over here where they could move? You know, if they're gonna do it, why don't they just move the bulky storage way over here and have a separate road for that?
That was something that I brought up in terms of modifying how the driveways work, which you really get into big money in terms of moving driveways, and the topography of that property is just awful, you know?
Phil,
So you have a lot of cut and fills. I didn't want to bring this to you cold
I don't know if
when
we
we
cut
would.
though, because that's still, a lot of that stuff is,
You,
dirt.
you can't touch the capped filled area. So I didn't want to bring this to you all cold in one meeting. We don't have the cost estimate yet, but perhaps at our next meeting, we'll be looking for us to consider a cost benefit and whether or not we want to recoup what I estimate is our $100,000 out of this, either through direct deposit or through, abatements of our fees. But there's all kinds of questions on how it would be
If we take the
scheduled.
money, do they go forward without us? Sounds like it. No, they don't.
Because I could see right now, Winston really, I don't know what they stand to gain. So,
They also have baseball fields, have a few.
they have Dodge Field and they have Walker Field, so they have, at least 4 or 5 fields right there at, Rowley Street. But I think it's something for us to consider, and then when we get maybe at our next meeting, we can talk more, about it. Maybe we can even have Jimmy Hart or Dave Batiste, part of his, estimate is that he would come to a meeting to talk about it.
Sure.
If we had any questions, but just wanted you guys to know that A, that we've been working on this for a while, and B, the board of RRDD is really going to be looking for us to give them input of whether we want to pursue this proposal or not. To me, it's about, what the cost benefit is and how, the operational entity.
Well, where does the remaining, $600,000 or $700,000, it's $1 million project, and we have $300,000.
Gotta raise money.
Maybe Don should go to the NBC and tell them to give him 40 acres or 30 acres and let him build something.
That's his alternate B,
Makes sense.
so,
They own the whole town.
right. Well, I think that he's considering that, but he knows that RRDD has over $300,000 in their capital
It's a
account,
good
so
start, yeah.
it does, if he can make it work
The
for
roads are
everybody.
there, the infrastructure's there, some of it.
To me, $100,000 here, plus an additional appropriation, is the cost associated with whatever competing proposal, like what would it actually take us to finalize Antolini? Could we take that $100,000 and finish Antolini with no additional appropriation?
I see what you're saying.
And not have any confusing issues with who's controlling scheduling?
Well, $100,000, if we back out, got $100,000 back, it could come back to the town's coffers, just back.
Oh, it will.
It will, yeah.
It comes back as revenue, we can't spend it.
Right, right, right.
It goes back, Board of Finance, and you have to pursue it through that process. But in the same regards, there's no guarantee that I told them, I said, I don't know in its current form if this would ever pass any type of referendum. I don't know that I would ever support pursuing it, because I just think that the contamination issues, the
Yeah.
confusing title issues with who holds
Additional-
ownership or would control it,
additional money.
and all the additional money, I think would be substantial, so.
NBC's got all that land across from town garage, you just get 30 acres there. That's all NBC. Across Route 44 from the town garage, that's all NBC.
Barkhamsted?
Yeah.
Down, that's all basic. So, anyway, that will be reappearing on our agenda. I don't think we need to have any action on it tonight. But, and if Dave Batista does finish his cost estimates, we'll ask him to maybe come to our next meeting.